I know a kid from Kerala. He comes from a very humble background. He came to us and he became one of our core team members. And today, he's actually taking care of his whole family. I mean, he paid off whatever loans his dad had. He's running the whole family on his own now. So these are the kind of success stories which kind of motivate me to keep the conference going. I would say over the past 10 years, I mean, the focus toward information security has been tremendous. A large part of it is driven by compliance. First thing about security or professionals or CISOs think about is that let's first be compliant and then think about whether we are actually secure or not. I would say the approach should be different. I mean, if you are secure, then definitely you will be compliant in some or other way. So in that way, I mean, the focus should be doing more on the right thing than to be just being compliant. I would say browser is like your gateway to the outside world. The moment like somebody is opening a browser and opening a website, essentially your corporate environment is getting exposed to the outer world at that time. You might have firewall, IDS, IPS in place, but at the end of the day, like if somebody browser got compromised and like if that person is connected to corporate network, essentially now the attackers are sitting in your network.
Hi Prashant, it's such a pleasure to have you on our Be Fearless podcast and looking forward to our conversation.
Sure. Thank you very much, Sasha, for inviting me. It's my pleasure.
So Prashant, tell us about your cybersecurity journey. When did it start and how did you get into cybersecurity in the first place?
Sure. I was working for a company called Computer Associates, and at that time I was fixing some of the security vulnerabilities. So I was testing those vulnerabilities using tools like Metasploit, and that kind of fascinated me, and I thought this is something I should learn around. And then I moved to another company, and there I became a proper security professional. We were doing initial research on web application security attacks, and that's how my career journey actually started.
Okay, very interesting. And how did you end up in the US? How did this journey start?
Sure. So I was working in an Indian company called Infosys. At that time, we had some US customers. So there was a requirement in one of the large customers here. So my company sent me here, and since then I have been living here. Yeah.
Wow. Such an incredible journey. And I know that you helped to organize conference Seaside. So tell us a little bit more. Where did it start and what was the idea behind it?
Sure. So, I mean, I have been attending a lot of conferences around the world and largely in India. I thought that, I mean, the entry level to get into these conferences are pretty high. I mean, the conference fees is pretty high, and the travel and the time it takes to reach to the venue takes a lot of monetary aspect as such. So in that way, I thought that, I mean, we should organize something in India for people from smaller towns, people from humble background who would have access to like a quality cybersecurity education. That's where the idea started. And that's where we kind of piggyback from Nalcon. Nalcon had been doing a great job of getting all the security research from the world and giving an exposure in India to other people as well. We thought that, okay, we'll piggyback with them and give opportunity to some of the younger professionals, people from smaller cities to come and attend a free of cost event. So in that way, we kind of started this journey, and it's been really nice till now.
Wow. And how many people would you say right now attending Seaside Conference?
Last year, almost 1,200 people actually came to the event.
Oh, wow.
I mean, the beauty of the event is that the moment you get into the event, you don't have to spend any money. I mean, right from the food to the hardware to the parties, everything is free of cost. I mean, just come up with an open mind to learn and meet with people and make some connections.
And what would you say, like, the main mission of Seaside Conference?
Basically, like taking cybersecurity education to masses, make it more affordable to everyone.
Yeah. Such a great initiative, especially right now when there are so many conferences. There is DEF CON, there is Black Hat, that of course brings so many cybersecurity professionals at one place. But as you said, there is so much friction when it comes to even cost associated with hosting these conferences. So I think what you're doing is incredible, just gathering so many people, and maybe just give us some statistics how big the conference became since you started it. Was it 2019 when you first started it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we started in 2019 and it was a very kind of rundown kind of place. I mean, we in fact used like polythene sheets to like separate the rooms. But the idea was to just like get people together and like give a platform to like people to learn. And that was the first year. Like we are almost had like 300 people attending that event, and subsequently like a large part of industry started supporting us. I mean, initially I think we only got like 4 or 5 sponsors. This year we had like 40 sponsors. So in that way, I mean, the industry also started trusting us, and like they saw value in what we were doing. Subsequently, like 2020, we moved to a much larger space. At that time, like almost 600 people came to the event. In that way, we have been growing organically, and it so happened that some companies started doing some recruitment as well in the industry, in the conference. So I mean, we are really grateful to High Radius, I mean, who have been hiring people every year from Seasides, and they had a lot of success with the kind of people they have been hiring. So in that way, like I mean, we have been trying to like give something positive to the industry as well.
Wow, awesome. So practically vendors can just show up and find someone they like and recruit for their company?
You can say that, yeah.
Wow, exciting. So it's a good note for all our listeners whenever they're thinking which conference to participate in. Seasides is the first one that comes to mind. Do you have any memorable stories when it comes to this conference? Like, did something happen there? Yeah.
I mean, I would say the success story is what happened after people attended Seasides is kind of, I mean, very satisfying for me. I mean, we give 5,000 rupees to the people who cannot afford to the event. So initially we were doing it for 25 students. Last year we gave it to 100 students. So 2020, like I remember one kid, he missed the getting the scholarship, and he messaged us saying that I'm really interested. And he comes from a very humble background in a remote place in India. We sponsored him as well, and he came there, and next year he was actually a trainer at Seaside, and then today he has spoken at conferences like Black Hat and DEF CON.
Oh wow.
So in that way, from a remote, so humble background, he's been able to come to a larger event like this. It's been like really satisfying for us. Similarly, like I know a kid from Kerala, he comes from a very humble background again. I mean, he came to us, and he became one of our core team members. And today, like he's actually taking care of his whole family. I mean, he paid off whatever loans his dad had. He's running the whole family on his own now. So these are the kind of success stories which kind of motivate me to keep the conference going.
This is amazing. I mean, even the first person that you spoke about, you know, he first came someone on a scholarship, and right now he's practically can be a sponsor for the event. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
A complete change of trajectory. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, and the good thing is those kids are still part of our event. I mean, they want to now help other kids to get into cybersecurity and help them to like become what they are now.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. And you also, like, just not even including Seaside, you're also part of OWASP Bay Area chapter. Can you tell us more? What do you do there?
Sure. So I help organize the monthly meetups for OWASP. Like we presently have almost like 6,000 members on the meetup page. On any given day, like we have attendees from like 50 to 100 people attending the event. And our top researchers and top organizations want to actually come and participate. And we have a huge list of sponsors or the host who want to come and participate in the event. In that way, I mean, I think it's one of the most go-to community in the Bay Area right now.
Can you just tell for those listeners that don't quite know what is OWASP, what does it stand for, and why people are part of this?
Sure. OWASP is an organization for web application security project. Basically, they are coming up with like a lot of guidelines and procedures and methodologies and tools for securing web application. I think it was started in way back in early 2000s. The local chapters were spawned up after that. I was involved in the Bangalore chapter earlier when I was in India, and then when I came to US, I started contributing to the OWASP Bay Area chapter. They have monthly meetups here. There is global AppSec conferences at different cities as well. OWASP Top 10 project is one of the most famous projects which has kind of become an industry standard as far as the web application security is concerned. OWASP MSVS, ASVS project is one of the, again, highly sought after project. People use it for their day-to-day application security work. I mean, OWASP has been doing a lot of good work in promoting AppSec as such, I would say.
Wow. And I know that you're doing a lot of research yourself and come from that kind of background. What kind of research you're the most proud of?
Recently, we wrote a tool called SCAGoat.
Okay.
It's basically a vulnerable SCA application. SCA is like a source code component analysis. Like you have, you write your own code and you include a lot of third-party libraries. And if those third-party libraries are vulnerable, your application also becomes vulnerable. So in that way, there are many organizations which are like products which are coming up in that space to identify the open source vulnerabilities and help developers to fix that. Unfortunately, when I was evaluating those products, I was not seeing any benchmark by using which I can evaluate them. So because of that, like we wrote our own application, a vulnerable application. Using that, like we are able to evaluate and help a lot of vendors to also like improve their product as well. So we actually ran it across like almost 10 products till now. We worked with many of those companies then to tell them the reports that are generated and tell them that, okay, these are some of the things which are missing in their product. So they would go back and fix that and then again improve their product as such.
I definitely see the value of something like this being created, especially in the industry that is evolving with every single day. You know, there's new vulnerabilities coming out, and something like this, I see a lot of value. And I just wanted to kind of go deeper into your background. You previously worked at Google. So what was it like doing security in retail industry versus anything else?
I would say retail industry has its own challenges because large part of it that you are directly dealing with the normal customer who comes from like say varied background, people from remote places, people who don't understand technology that much. The chances of them getting like phished or like a fraud involving those innocent customers are much higher than compared to a tech-oriented companies as such.
Okay.
And the customer base is so high here that, I mean, at any given point of time, like say Thanksgiving or Christmas, the amount of business done goes in billions. So in that way, any small vulnerability then at that time can lead to like leaking millions of dollars in the revenue or profits. So the challenges in retail are much more like different from the regular tech industry, I would say. So essentially, like whenever we do anything in security, we need to keep in mind that those changes or those recommendations, what we are going, will impact like millions of customers.
And whatever you're doing right now, do you still have retail industry in mind? I think it doesn't only touch retail industry. There are so many industries out there that, let's say, except healthcare or financial, that are highly vulnerable. What other industries, because they think, oh, they're not part of this higher vulnerable industries, they don't focus on cybersecurity as much. What would you advise retail industry and any other kind of industries when it comes to protection?
I would say over the past 10 years, I mean, the focus toward information security has been tremendous. A large part of it is driven by compliance. I mean, like PCI compliance or like say HIPAA compliance. So large part of like security, I mean, first thing about security or professionals or CISOs think about is that let's first be compliant and then think about whether we are actually secure or not. I would say the approach should be different. I mean, if you are secure, then definitely you will be compliant in some or other way. So in that way, I mean, the focus should be doing more on the right thing than to be just being compliant, I would say.
Is this something that you're also trying to promote at Seaside conferences when it comes to compliance versus actually being on the front of being protected from the new age of attacks?
Absolutely, you can say that. I mean, like once you are doing right practices, once you're following like right methodologies, I think compliance then becomes easier.
How do you go about communicating all of this when it comes to a larger audience? I'm really curious.
Largely, like say, since I'm part of the OWASP Bay Area chapter, we try to like get speakers come and speak about it, or like whenever we go and like talk to people, we try to propagate these best practices as such. Yeah, and podcasts like this will definitely help, I would say.
Yeah, I noticed that you're also coming up with a lot of creative strategies, creating memes for the Seaside conferences and all of that. And I think especially in today's age, where attention span of whoever spends time on the social media is so low. I think it's a great initiative. How did you come up with it in the first place?
I mean, first of all, I like memes. So, and then I have seen like people like Elon Musk also like tweeting memes.
Yeah.
So in that way, I thought that it's a good medium for like getting your thought process across to various people. And especially like it become like if you are able to like communicate a movie scene with a technology inference to that, it becomes much more easier for people to understand it or correlate to a day-to-day life as such. In that way, and sometimes they are funny as well, so it adds to the entertainment value as well.
Yeah. What would you say was the most viral meme that you created that really helped promote Seaside?
I think the last year's call for papers meme what we created, basically we took the speeches of different politicians and we combined together to make it as a call for papers for Seasides. So basically like say the Prime Minister of India was talking about different technologies. So we used that clip for saying that, okay, if you are a researcher, then please come and submit your research. The another politician was inviting people to come to their state. We used that clip to like invite people to come on to the Seasides as such. So we combined these speeches from different politicians and created a call for papers. I think that was funny.
No, it's amazing. And I feel like, especially today, as I said, the attention span is so short that you just want to grab attention. And I think especially for Seaside conferences, it's mostly younger people that come to participate. So of course you want to target more younger audience or just someone that's just starting in the cybersecurity career. So yeah, I feel like it's an incredible venue to do something like this. And I know at Seaside you also touch upon a lot of new technologies that are coming out. What are your thoughts when it comes to browser security?
So my thought process around browser security started way back in 2009 and 10 when basically this famous Google Aurora attack happened. And I thought that, I mean, this is one of the easiest gateway to get into an infrastructure, and companies are not doing anything about it.
Can you just remind what was this attack?
Basically, I think it was a state-sponsored attack against Google and certain companies. At that time, I think IE9 was being used, and these attackers were able to like find a 0-day vulnerability in that. And I think some non-technical person clicked on a link, and that particular browser was compromised. And because of that, like the attackers were able to get into Google's infrastructure, and subsequently, like they were able to do lateral movement and get into a lot of other important infrastructures and repositories, etc. That was one of my first, thought-provoking moment about like client-side security and especially browser security, I would say.
And how would you say, like, it's been such a long time ago, 2009, and it seems like only now the technology is finally at this place where they can go about solving these kind of problems. What would you say was the pivotal moment today?
Absolutely. I mean, over the years, I think not much has been done apart from the browser vendors themselves. I don't think industry has done much on the browser security aspect. A large part of it has gone like to educate the people that do not fall prey to these malicious links, do not fall prey to phishing attacks like that. But then, hardening the browser itself, or like say, making the browser itself like difficult to attack has been a little, I would say, the research has been less on that front. I think that's where like companies like SquareX is doing a good job in thinking about this particular problem.
Thank you. We are trying to be the pioneers in this space as a browser detection and response solution. And so how would you say is the best way to bring the word about browser security forward when it comes to talking to CISOs, when it comes to just explaining the vulnerabilities that come from not having your browser protected?
I would say browser is like your gateway to the outside world. A moment like somebody is opening a browser and opening a website, essentially your corporate environment is getting exposed to the outer world at that time. I mean, you might have firewall, IDS, IPS in place, but at the end of the day, like if somebody browser got compromised, and like if that person is connected to corporate network, essentially now the attackers are sitting in your network. Okay, so in that way, I would say that the browser is more like a gateway towards your infrastructure. That's where I think a lot of emphasis should be given on that particular aspect now.
What would you say are the biggest threats today when it comes to browser security?
Malicious links, zero-day attacks on the browsers themselves, people using random plugins or like add-ons to the browser. I think those are some of the easier attacks, the threats to the browser security right now.
Yeah, plugins is a very interesting story because I feel like a lot of people today underestimate the kind of control that plugins possess over your whole system as soon as you install them. What are your thoughts, like the main vulnerabilities that people are not aware of when it comes to plugins?
Say a lot of times like people get lured to install some plugin that, okay, when you open this site, you will get certain discounts or you can get coupon codes based upon the sites you are browsing. And a lot of non-technical people would actually end up like installing those plugins. And then those plugins essentially now has access to whole browser history. Essentially the user ID passwords you are giving, the network traffic, what is going, it can sniff that and you utilize that for malicious purposes. So essentially, it's like your browser is compromised.
Yeah, and what would you say are the top 3 threats that right now most cybersecurity professionals are underestimating when it comes to browser protection?
Again, installing malicious browsers, the kind of so like thousands of add-ons get published on like say Mozilla or Chrome marketplace. It is difficult for them also to keep up the pace and see that whether this plugin is actually malicious in nature or not. And antiviruses have limited capabilities to like even tell you that okay, this add-on you are using on this browser is malicious in nature. So in that way, I think that people have to be very careful about what you are installing on browser. Then other things like say opening the attachments directly on the browser. Again, the capability what SquareX provides of sandboxing the attachments, I think that's a really good thing, which inherently a browser should have had it before.
Yeah. I would be very curious, maybe explain to our audience, why are antiviruses unable to detect all of these plugins, and what is the main vulnerability?
Attacks goes on the client side and it's mostly behavior based. There is no set signature patterns for antiviruses to detect that. The client side antiviruses does not have the behavioral capability to identify that okay, somebody installed that plugin and then that plugin is randomly taking data at certain point of time and sending it somewhere else. So those antiviruses does not have the full context around the data as well as the site it is communicating to. In that way, it's very difficult for the local antivirus sitting on your machine to detect these kind of patterns. I
think thanks to your more than 20 years in cybersecurity background, you just have so much context into whatever is going on both an attack spectrum, research spectrum. What would you say were the main lessons that you learned in this past 20 years in the industry?
I would say it's always good to be paranoid. So be careful about what you're doing on the internet. Try to like sandbox your vulnerable applications or like say the resources you are interacting with the outside world.
So always be paranoid. So Prashant, what would you say would be your elevator pitch for Seaside Conference, and why should someone attend it?
So basically the main motive behind Seasides was to make cybersecurity education more accessible. People from various backgrounds can come and attend the event without worrying about the money aspect of it. So in that way, we are trying to do something good for the community. Large part of like cybersecurity is that the connections what you make, the kind of people what you interact with, the kind of resources. You would get guidance upon that. What should I read? Where should I like get references from? That is where we are trying to like bridge that gap between the industry, academics and professionals. So 3 of them can meet together and contribute towards the cybersecurity space.
Awesome. And I think as a closing for our podcast, we started this initiative where we ask on each podcast, our guest, what question would you ask our next guest that they should respond?
I would say you can ask them, like, say, what made them get into cybersecurity?
Okay. I think it's a good question. Sure. Thank you so much, Prashant, for your time. It's been amazing having you for our Be Fearless podcast.
Sure.
And I look forward to catching up again.
Thank you very much, Sasha. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.